All right, good morning. And if we have a few other folks that chime in, I will let them in. And I am excited to introduce some guests that we have with us this morning. Before I do, I'll just make a couple quick announcements. We do have our 4-point approach training happening next week, Wednesday, or excuse me, the 18th. And is that Wednesday?
Okay.
Tuesday, thank you, at 5:30, and that's on Zoom. So that'll be recorded. So register if you even want to, get the recording link, and we'll make sure you get that. And if you can share it with, your board members and different active volunteers, it's always a great way for them to learn about this approach, this 4-point approach that we apply. And then also it is time for reporting. So I will be sending out later today the link for you to start doing that reporting. It looks a little different for Main Streets versus affiliates, but I'll send you the appropriate link and some more information about that, so you can look out for it. I know it's a busy time of year, but it's reporting time of year, so we're gonna get in on that. And then for the participating communities, the entrepreneurship ecosystem is kicking off November 1st in the Belfast at the free library there. And you should have received information from Perry with details about that. So feel free to reach out to me or Perry if you didn't receive that and you think you should have, or if you've got any questions about it. All righty, and then morning, Amy. And so with us today is some representatives from Masthead, Maine, and I'm going to let them each introduce themselves specifically, but I'm excited for them to get to present a new program that they're launching to help communities and some of your local businesses do some promotion through some ARPA funds. So Allison, do you want me to make you the co-host? Is that best?
Sure, that would be fine, and then I can share my screen.
Great. All right, I'll let the three of you take it away from here. Courtney, Allison, and Jody.
Great. I'll just quickly start and just say thank you all for letting us join you this early rainy Friday morning. We're here today because I had attended a conference in Chicago earlier this year and heard about a program that was being done in Meriden, Connecticut, where the local economic development director was partnering with local media and the chamber in a program to help the local businesses in that community with marketing to help drive new customers, to help recover from the pandemic. So they were using some of so it's a program that they pulled together using some of the American Recovery Plan Act funding to funnel actually in to help the local businesses themselves. So when I came back and we were talking about this program, the first thing a lot of people thought was, well, let's bring this to MDF and their Main Streets and Affiliates program, because this might be the kind of thing that that would really work in some of your communities. And I'll just start by saying this may not be the actual blueprint that we could follow if some of your Recovery Plan Act funding is already earmarked. But my colleagues Courtney and Jody, that I'll have them introduce themselves in just a few minutes. We're committed to working with you all to try and help figure out plans to help the local businesses in your communities. So my name is Allison McCann, and I'm the Business Development Vice President for Masthead, Maine. And we'll get a little bit into what Masthead, Maine is shortly, but let me have my colleagues Courtney and Jody introduce themselves to you. And then maybe we could go around really quickly and you folks could just say which communities you're from, just so that we can put names to communities. So Jody, Courtney, why don't I hand it over to you?
I'm Jody Jalbert. I am the publisher of the Sun Journal and also the Group Vice President of Sales for the Central Maine newspapers. I work with both the Central Maine Kennebec Journal, Morning Sentinel, and the Sun Journal sales teams.
And as I said, I'm Courtney Spencer. I'm the Group Vice President of Sales for sort of what we consider our Southern cluster of newspapers, which, as I said, included the Press Herald, Forecasters, Lakes Region Weekly, and the American Journal, but also a group of papers named under the name Mainly Media, which includes the South Portland Century, the Scarborough Leader, the OOB Biddeford Saco Courier, and the Kennebunk Post, and also another daily paper, the Times Record, out of Bath, Brunswick. So I get to work with a lot of really hyper local publications, which is why one of the reasons when Allison came back with this idea that I thought, wow, that could make a lot of sense, where we're all already covering some of these communities.
Great. And then how about I call on folks to do an intro of your name and location? Cara.
My name is Cara Romano. We're located in Ellsworth, Maine.
Amanda.
Amanda McDaniel, Director of Main Street Bath.
Mark.
Yes, good morning. Mark Putnam in Presque Isle with the Rustic Agency on Aging, filling in for Joy Presti-Saucier.
Terry Ann.
Good morning. I'm Terry Ann Holden, and I'm with the Maine Department of Economic and Community Development, and we provide some funding for the Maine Downtown Center, and I'm on the Advisory Council.
And let's see, Melissa.
Melissa Lindley, Director of Gardner Main Street.
And Ross. Oh, yours, yeah.
Ross Cunningham, Lisbon, Economic Community Development.
Amy.
Hi, Amy Gomez-Pulaski, Discover Downtown Westbrook.
And Nancy.
I am Nancy Ketch. I'm with the Town of Fulton.
And Bill.
I'm Bill King. I'm from Bath, former business person on the Advisory Council to the Maine Downtown Center and on 3 committees at Main Street Bath, and been involved in Main Street, Maine since day one.
And Delilah.
Morning, I'm Delilah Papor from Heart of Biddeford, sitting at a coffee shop in downtown Saco. Don't tell.
Did I miss anyone? I think that's everybody.
Okay, well, Delilah, look, you're supporting local business, right? I mean, that's all that's what we're here. That's what we're here to talk about today. So if you folks don't mind, I will share my screen, hopefully, and let's see if we can get this presentation to work. And we'll just go quickly through. I know Jody and Courtney gave a great explanation for our footprint and actually the organizations that are part of our network. But let me just see here quickly. Wonderful. Can everyone see that? Great. Okay, I'm going to just do this. I like to make my screen over here really big so I can still see all of your faces. Okay. So what we're, that's a little bit too big. So what we're here to talk about today, like I said, is this really interesting. I would love to be able to say that this was our idea, but it's not. But it is a proven program that we'll get into a little bit here. It's always good when an idea has a really great case study behind it and that folks can just replicate. And that's actually what happened at this conference in Chicago. The publisher of the Meriden newspaper group came to us and just said, this is something that you all should be doing, looking at in your communities. So let's just get right into it here. So first, what Masthead is, like Courtney and Jody says, that we're a collection of newspapers. I might have gone too far. We're 5 of the 6 daily newspapers in the state. We have 17 hyper local weekly community newspapers. As Courtney said, some are Biddeford, Saco. Jody said all the way out to Bethel. They're different, really hyper local community papers versus the daily papers that have a little bit more broad coverage. We are also the hosts of the 3 largest main news websites, the Press Herald, centralmaine.com, and sunjournal.com. And we have over 8 million page views collectively on those websites each month. So we're really lucky to be able to cover what's important to Maine, both from a statewide perspective as well as really diving deep into those communities where things like school board meetings and city council meetings are covered. But we also really like to think of ourselves as in those communities that we're neighbors. I mean, we're also local businesses in those communities, and it's important to us that those communities are as successful as possible. So we find ourselves, we think, uniquely positioned to help local businesses that might have suffered losses due to the pandemic. And what we're here today is to talk about this program that was piloted by Meriden, but also to talk and maybe brainstorm about how, if this isn't the actual program that could work, how might we partner in your municipalities to figure out how we can support the local businesses there. So you can see our footprint. It's wide and vast, and we have sort of sister publications, we like to call them, in Ellsworth, Cara, and in the Mid-Coast as well. So let's just quickly talk a little bit about what this program looked like in Meriden. They called it the Local Business Marketing Boost Program. And essentially what it is the town of Meriden created marketing grants through their recovery, through their ARPA funding, and said businesses and nonprofits can apply, and they siphoned off some of their recovery plan funding to help these local businesses market themselves. And where the paper came in is that they said, if the businesses spend with us, we will match that investment 1-to-1. So what was a $1,000 grant becomes $2,000 worth of marketing assets. 1,000 of them donated by the media company, and to use however these organizations want within the Meriden Record Journal, whether it's print, digital, inserts, email marketing, any platform that the Record Journal had to help these businesses let folks know that they were still open, let folks know that they were available for business, and to attract potentially new customers. And one of the key things about the program was that collectively, they made it very simple for the businesses to apply. It wasn't a long and arduous application. These local business owners don't have time for those kinds of things. They're trying to run their businesses. So the one criteria was that they had to be a business registered within the town. And so the publisher of the Record Journal spoke about how they brought this idea to the economic development director in Meriden, said this was a great idea. We need to get this in front of the body who's making the decisions about how the funds are being distributed. They brought in the chamber, and then they brought that as a sort of a triumvirate of going in front of the council to say, this is our proposed plan. And where the chamber came in was they said that if these businesses that apply aren't chamber memberships, we will give them a chamber membership free for a year. So these businesses got the support of the chamber, they got the money from the ARPA funding, and they got a match from the newspapers to be able to put out that they were still in business. These grants were awarded first come, first serve, essentially. One of the things that they shared with us was when they went in front of the council, who was the arbiter of the funds, who was distributing the funds, the question became, how much do we siphon off for very small businesses? Do we cap this for a number of employees? And the way that it worked in Meriden was actually they funded 150 of these grants, and they said that maybe 25 had to be for companies that had 25 or fewer employees. But other than that, if you were business registered in Meriden, then this was fair game. And another way that the paper got involved here was to help let the businesses know and the community know that this was happening with their funding. The papers launched a free promotional campaign to let everybody know to go ahead and apply. So that's the nuts and bolts of this. Like, the grants were created, the paper matched, businesses just need to apply. And then if they were awarded the grants, the businesses just worked with the paper on all of the ad design and planning. It was not a heavy lift for these businesses. And what they all collectively said was it was just great to have the support and to be able to market. I think if you're a small business owner and times are hard, one of the first things that gets cut actually is your marketing budget, which is a little bit hard because it's one of the things that's the spend that could actually help you grow your business. So I think that's where this plan came into play to support them. So just to run through some of the details here, like I said, 150 businesses each received in Meriden, they did a $4,000 program, where each business received $2,000 in funding from the federal funding, a $2,000 match from the Record Journal Media Group. So it was a total of $600,000 worth of free marketing in that community for local businesses. At the end of the program, 100% of the 150 businesses said that they would absolutely do that program again. I mean, why wouldn't you? Right? And unfortunately, the town had more than 150 businesses apply. So what they're doing is they're actually opening up a second round of that funding to be able to go through and award again. And some of the you can see here some of the folks that were instrumental in this program in Meriden. They actually had an ARPA consultant, Jack Reagan, who just said this was an impactful program on many levels. It's providing a great benefit to the businesses, and it absolutely can be replicated in other towns to assist small business. The mayor said this is exactly what the money's for, and the economic development director just said that there was a huge amount of buzz about it in the community and that the local businesses felt really, really supported. And worth noting, again, this is all, and I heard this in a presentation, but the publisher of the Record Journal said that this Joseph Feast was actually a huge advocate and a proponent and an ally in bringing this up to the council. They cautioned that in another town they went to, that their economic development director said to them, don't use me as your friend when you bring this to the council. The council won't want to hear my opinion. So find another champion locally and take it to the council. So at least, folks are honest, but everybody kind of thought that this was a really good use of the funding to support local businesses. And then there's just some testimonials here from people, and again, 100% of the businesses said they would participate in the program again. But this Eddie Rivera from the hair studio said, I just love that the community is talking about our local businesses, and they wanted to know who got the grant, who didn't. So it was just it just created a nice buzz in the community. So that was the program in Meriden, and Courtney and Jody, I know you have had some conversations with folks about what the status of the funding and its allocation in certain communities. And in some communities, people will say there's all of the funding's already been earmarked. This isn't a program we could replicate using that kind of funding, which, and maybe in some communities it's not earmarked, and this becomes a really good program to bring to support the businesses themselves rather than the community on the whole. But we also just kind of looked at this and thought, well, this just really creates a very interesting partnership, right, between economic development and the local media on how they can work together to help support local businesses directly. And so whether it's ARPA funding or not, we just wanted to bring this to this group because we know how committed you are to your downtowns and local businesses, and let you know that if it's a program like this or something similar, we're really open to brainstorming ideas and programs that might work in your communities on a similar level. So Jody, Courtney, did I miss anything? And does anyone have any questions?
Allie, thank you so much. I think that really did cover it. I would just add that we, like all of you, felt the distress of small local businesses during the pandemic. I mean, we gave free advertising to restaurants to say, we've got takeout, we've got, we pulled every lever that we had to be able to support small businesses during the crisis period of the pandemic, because we have relationships with them too. And so we felt their pain, and we also have a vested interest in seeing them rebound. And that is a big motivator, I think, for all of us in terms of figuring out how can we support these smaller local communities.
I did have a question. So for history, I used to work for Reed, and I managed Travel Maine for a couple of years. And just out of curiosity, is there any way you guys could reach out to the folks at Travel Maine? Because I know many of our communities are tourism based and sort of closing down for the season at this point. So I'm wondering if you could convince Travel Maine to make this same offer so that when seasonal advertising comes around next summer, you could sort of use this money to do more of a regional seasonal blast kind of thing in another product. I mean, I agree that if I had ARPA money, I'd be all over this in Lisbon, and I may go back and ask just how much we really do have, because I've been told it's earmarked, but if I knock on the door a little louder, I might get a different answer. But I also think that for the tourism communities and for the seasonal magazine, I wonder if that makes some sense.
Ross, that's such a great point. And I will say that just as an example, while the American Journal covers the Westbrook area, right? And so if we were to move forward with something like this in the Westbrook area, we would obviously, the American Journal would be the appropriate partner for this program. And likely those businesses would want to advertise in the American Journal. But that's the beauty of Masthead Maine, is we have reach. So if a business in Westbrook wanted to reach people in Falmouth, because they thought they could draw people from there, we have publications in Falmouth. If Travel Maine made sense, or our Out and About products made sense because they're a tourism-based company, we have the ability to place that advertising. So we're really talking about a custom advertising program for individual businesses.
But Ross, I really like the fact that you like the program. Any other thoughts or questions?
I know. Oh, well, Allison, I'll just jump in on something you'd mentioned earlier, which was, if these funds are all earmarked and there's not that wiggle room at this point, you'd mentioned interest in continuing, to work with small businesses and maybe these downtown centers. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, one of the conversations Jody, Courtney, and I were having yesterday is we don't know, are there programs in your communities? I know that there's a lot of programs in communities that support local small business, but are any of them focused on supporting local and small businesses from a marketing perspective? And is this something that is this something new that we could bring to those community, to those business owners?
Good question.
well as
One of the conversations we're having in our EV committee is not how can we as a Main Street offer more services to our businesses, but how can we promote organizations that provide these type of services to our businesses. So like we wouldn't go out and provide a women in business entrepreneurship training because the Women Business Center does that. But like this could be a nice way that we could like promote and highlight this to our businesses as like more of a information sharing as opposed to like as a Main Street offering that. So that's how I see this as being a good connection for us at the moment.
Yeah, and I will just say, here in Ellsworth, a lot of times what we do is we actually will have a representative. So for example, 2 weeks ago, we had Michelle Shores from Maine Invites You come up, and we spent the afternoon walking around Main Street with her and introducing her directly to all of our downtown businesses, because our downtown businesses for years have wanted someone to organize a co-op ad, you know, that would be available to each of them to dip in as they would like. I think a lot of it is it's incredibly valuable, I think, for these businesses to be directly introduced. They have so much going on, as someone had said earlier, that it's difficult for them to have time to look at emails. They're trying to run their business, not necessarily thinking about marketing. So bringing someone directly in there and having somebody explain their publication stats, not me doing it, me introducing them to a real person, it's been very helpful. But I will say, and maybe it's just because of the state of the world right now, but we've been trying for 4 weeks now. We even created a sample ad for Maine Invites You, putting everyone's logo on there. And we got one person out of like the 30 businesses that we went into, and we're probably not going to be able to do this group ad this year. And a lot of businesses are just really overwhelmed with different issues, I guess. But to that, the thing that my point I'm trying to make is, I think it's really valuable when a rep goes door to door, and I know it's time consuming, but with that downtown director, it's helpful. So.
Go ahead, Tyrion.
What would be the first step that people or any of us should take to kind of get this ball moving? What would you recommend? Going to the town select board or council to find out if there's money? Should that be the first thing that people do to see if that's going to be able to happen in their community?
I might make a recommendation that you find a champion inside the administration first before you just go coldly knocking on a door, because you're going to get told no. You're going to get told there's no money. But if you can get somebody who's inside the organization, whether it's economic development or, even, gosh, I don't know, assistant town manager, somebody who's motivated to help the businesses that has that feeling, find somebody inside first and have that person ask, because you're going to get a much better answer.
Good plan.
Ross, I completely agree with you. Having a champion who actually has a good sense of the body that's distributing the funds and what has actually been, things have been earmarked, but what has been awarded, right? So, I mean, because plans change. So if there's a way to have the conversation to say, is there a way we can funnel some of these back to support the businesses directly? And then, I think our play here is we just want to amplify. We just want to amplify that marketing effort and make it really successful for the local businesses. But then again, that said, Courtney, Jody, I will defer to you on the other best way. If the ARPA track isn't going to work, I would say let's just have a conversation, right? Jody, Courtney, I will turn it over to you.
Absolutely. We have been sort of investigating in the smaller towns that we serve with the Sun Journal and the Central Maine newspapers, as well as the Western Maine weeklies. We have a handful of towns that have really suffered due to downtown construction. And then you put COVID on top of that, and they're really having a hard time getting out of their own way because, of course, their business has been affected. They know they need to market. The downtowns are opening back up, but their hands are a little tied based on their funding. So we've been successful partnering with some chambers or the downtown organizations in finding sort of like an underwriter for the group ad page, that you spoke of in the Ellsworth area. If you can find a chamber or a larger business that may have been part of the downtown construction, whether it be a bank or construction company, to sort of underwrite the page, and then it lowers the price for the other folks. Our ad teams can certainly put together spec ads, which usually makes it easier for the businesses that are not used to, print advertising. And then the newspaper comes up with a rate or sort of grants it, the same way we would with the ARPA funds, but without the ARPA funds, to make it a little more reasonable for these people. So it's basically trying to make it as easy as possible for the small businesses. And we have had some success with that in the Waterville area, Bethel area, Farmington, and the businesses too have had success with the advertising that they've done. So it's really, I think, trying to find the champion in the town, but also the person who understands the needs of these small businesses and helping us communicate to them what we can offer. It is really a customized conversation based on the situation for that town. So we are willing to, listen to their needs and their challenges.
Thanks so much. What other questions do we have, or any ideas that might make this more viable? Obviously, the access to the funds is the number one piece. And Jody, I think you presented a creative, idea, dependent on ARPA availability. But yeah, anything else that could make this just more viable in your community? All right, well, Jody, Courtney, and Allison, anything else any other questions for this group or anything else you want to leave us with?
Again, I will let Jody and Courtney wrap things up, but I do want to thank everybody for your time, and just really want to share that if there's anything we can do to help support the work that you're doing in your communities, we are happy to brainstorm, kick around ideas. If there's a program you're considering in 2023 and it could, your local businesses could use some additional support, we're always open to having conversations. I love to talk to people. So if you just want to talk about what's happening in your community, and then maybe there's an opportunity to brainstorm some solutions, but I'll let Jody and Courtney wrap things up here.
Great.
Sylvie, could you throw out some emails in a group blast?
I was just about to say, if you all want to put your contacts in the chat, and then I'll follow up and make sure those get to everyone as the part of the email, follow-up email, unless the emails I have for you is already the best contact, I'll send that out.
Sylvie, can I make a comment?
Please, Bill.
Just to say, I think it's great to see the newspapers coming up with an approach and paying attention to main streets and to small business in downtowns. I mean, that's the way we used to do business. I can't tell you how many times I went out and tried to put together a number of merchants in one full page or just a whole advertising program. That's the way we did it for years. But now we got the social media, the Twitters and the Facebooks, and the merchants don't know which way to go. And they're having great success using the social media. So, but to us old timers, we still believe in the newspapers, and we still have to have a newspaper beside us with coffee in the morning. So I think this is great, because you got to really have both. And at some point in a community, you've got to think in terms of what's the readership in this newspaper or that one, but also what's the readership in the social media? And you need both, but you've got to decide how much you're going to put in each kitty. Those are the thoughts that I come to my mind over years of experience at doing this. Thank you.
That's a great point, Bill. Thank you for mentioning that. And I think that was, not to be overlooked as part of their presentation, that, that Jody and Allison and Courtney are all looking to help strategize, not only which form of media to get the message out, but also, I think it was Courtney mentioning just that kind of targeted approach in terms of which publications are most appropriate.
Bill, thank you so much for reading the paper with your morning coffee. I really appreciate that. I will say, yeah, we are that. We are that. But beyond that, we are a digital platform with digital marketing opportunities. We do social media. We understand social media. So I think that's why we feel like we're in a unique position. We also understand these local communities because we're a part of them. I think that's why we feel like an opportunity like this to really market these businesses in a way that maybe towns have not thought about investing in direct marketing to support these businesses recovering from, from the issues related to COVID and thinking about inflation. And small businesses I know are anxious about, how am I going to cover my rising costs, and how am I going to make my budget. So it continues to be a super sensitive time for small businesses, and that's why we think it's a great time to collaborate with them.
Well, that's great, Courtney. If you can help in both areas, that's really a great service to small business people, because they're already busier enough, and they definitely need help. And we need to sort out this, how much to go with one side, and how much to go with the other. I think that's a great approach.
Great. Any other questions that have popped up? Or Courtney and Jody, do you want to add any closing?
Actually, I think Bill's endorsement was great. And no, Courtney and Allison have pretty much explained what we have to offer. And I just can't stress enough how much we're willing to really listen to the communities and customize their needs, and hopefully come up with something that is, is a win-win for everybody.
Great.
Yes.
All right. Well,
Thank you, Mark, for your love of newspapers as well. It's really important to cover local news, right? And then if there's no one covering what's happening in your communities, you could run amok. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here and help brainstorm this program. And again, for that focus on these local businesses and downtown communities, because it's priceless, and it takes a village of the whole,
yes.
Whole state.
Thank you.
And we also want to say thank you. Masthead Maine has been a tremendous supporter of MDF, especially through the pandemic. So appreciate your continued support. And once we have anything from anyone else, I will send out notes just from the meeting with the contact information for our Masthead Maine guests. And hope you all have a good Friday and stay dry.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.